Once that bell rings, we're in high school. You know what that means? Anything is possible.
She's a sophomore, man. It's never gonna happen.
She hasn't met the new me. I don't want to dance around anymore. Ow!
For a second there, I thought you might have been f***ing the door.
Can you leave?
What was interesting about playing with like the Gen Z version of like a teen comedy for both of you?
It just felt like a fun challenge to take on because I feel like we grew up with these movies coming out pretty regularly and it felt like we hadn't seen one in a while. So trying to do one for today's generation was exciting to us. And I also feel like we really just wanted it to be fun and funny. We didn't want to worry about like preaching a message or trying to lecture kids about what they should be doing. We just wanted it to be an escape.
Yeah, and as far as like the Gen Z of it all, I think, look, when we sat down to write it, we were paralyzed at first with like, what are kids doing these days? How do cell phones and social media fit into the high school experience now? And eventually we just decided like, you know what, let's just kind of write it as if we were in high school and we'll go back and fill all that stuff in later. But in our conversations with, you know, friends who have kids of this age, the takeaway was like, kids are always doing more or less the same exact thing every generation.
Yeah, that was, you know, that you brought up a great point I was going to ask about, but it is interesting because it's like all those beats, despite the self-driving Tesla and like access to all, you know, these fancy new drugs and stuff like that, you know, like it's so interesting to me because they do play out with like my friends and like who I was as a kid, you know, to a degree. But I do want to talk about having like a younger cast, like, you know, Mason's great, but all of the teen cast is so good in this film. I'm just wondering if they helped change maybe the writing or like those little details that you mentioned being like, no, this is what we would do as kids. This is how we talk, or how much of that was your guys' writing versus their kind of input.
You know, I think it was really important to us that we cast kids who were that age. You know, I think it just looks so inauthentic to us when you're watching a movie that's supposed to be about freshmen in high school, but you're like, that guy looks 25. And I think it also really helped out because, you know, we could tell those kids, like, if any of these words don't ring true to us, like, we really hope you will raise your hand and say, no one would ever say this. And, you know, they would also pepper in some things that we would be like, I don't know what that word means, but we like it. So keep saying that.
Yeah, I think we really encouraged them once they signed on to like make these characters their own. And if something doesn't feel great, or even if they have an idea or want to try something, you know, we're generally very confident in the script when we go to set. But if there's anything to add or they can make it at all better, we try to create a space where they feel comfortable doing so.
I always like to ask when people are doing their first feature, if there is a style that you saw kind of come about in like the cut or like in the final product that you're like, well, I'm excited to play with these aspects of filmmaking in the next, you know, few projects that we do together.
You know, I think it's something we always enjoy, of just taking on different challenges. And that's something we did with the Mick too, where it's like, you know, we've never done a car crash before. Like, won't that be fun? And, you know, we've certainly never set a man on fire before, but now I think we're looking forward to what's the next big stunt we can do after that. But, you know, it's such a collaboration with your editor, with your DP. And so I think you're constantly just talking about references and what you want to emulate or borrow from. And, you know, oftentimes those aren't even comedies. Like, you're talking about some cool like drama or some crime film you saw, and you're just saying like, how can we do our comedic version of that?
Yeah, I think also, you know, it was such a run and gun shoot that any shot list or plan we had going in went out the window pretty quickly. And one of the smart decisions we made was to surround ourselves with really capable filmmakers like Rick Diaz, who is our cinematographer on this. So we learned a ton from him, and he saved our ass on many occasions during this shoot.
That makes me curious. What made it like a run and gun experience? It's just like a limit of time, a limit of budget, or what dictates that?
Yeah, look, I think anytime you are making any movie, it's difficult. You know, you're trying to get 150 or so people to all pull in the same direction, and that's always going to be a challenge. But this was a short shoot with a lot of extras, a lot of kids, so that comes with limited hours. And then you add on top of that all the unforeseen things that go wrong. That, you know, COVID was a big issue for us. We lost some locations at the last minute. So like this stuff is always hard, but the crew was unbelievable at rolling with the punches and coming together to figure it out and bust their asses to make us look good.
This isn't just a party. This is our future.
Oh, shit!
So what are you waiting for?
We're not your Uber.
Uh-huh.
Where do you live?
Taco Bell. What the fuck even is ketamine?
I think it's for cats or something.
It's for cats. Or something.